The temperature is nice and warm in the Boiling Point podcast studio, so come on in, get cozy, and let's enjoy the conversation. We empower leaders through thoughtful discussions to positively impact our world. Our host, Dave Vale, founder and CEO of Vision Coaching Inc., is highlighting how we can thrive in business communities. Our conversations with leaders, entrepreneurs, and inspirational storytellers are shining a spotlight on empowerment. Joining Dave this week is our special guest host, Emily Roger. Let's join the conversation with Dave and Emily.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Boiling Point podcast. So Dave, it feels like a long time since I've seen you on Zoom.
Yeah, it has been too long.
Yeah, summer's been good.
Summer's been great. Summer's been different. Let's put it that way. It's had some ups and downs, and we'll talk about that in another podcast, it's upcoming podcast. But weather-wise, beautiful. I've had boats in the water. Only one bilge pup went on me so far, so it's been pretty good.
Good.
Not too much maintenance. And you have been traveling the world running and doing crazy ultra marathons and making me feel like a slacker, really. But I'm really inspired by what you've been doing.
I've been mostly pacing other people for their ultra marathon. So I just go and run and then peel off 100 meters before the finish line. And but I've got some stuff on the calendar coming up. So it's good training for me. And talk about the coach approach and the lessons that I have learned from pacing people during ultra marathons, and how taking such a non-direct coach approach is kind of the way to go in that role. Lots of takeaways from that, and we can save that for an entirely different conversation.
Yeah, that's a conversation unto itself, and I really look forward to it because there's so many, as we've said, there's so many parallels with coaching and the profession we love as well.
Yeah. So today's guest, I am very excited about this. This is someone who, when I run into her, this smile goes on my face, and it's like, Stefanie, you are just such a bright, shining light. And it's funny, when I was kind of thinking about you this morning on my bike ride, actually, I was kind of laughing back at the days where initially we would have met in high school. And remember, we had law class together?
Oh yeah. Oh, do I remember?
And I was like, what do I remember from that class? And I'm like, well, it served me well because I've never gotten in trouble with the law, but that's the extent of what has transpired of that class for me. So welcome to the show.
Well, thanks, Em. Thanks. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah. And so, Stefanie, I'm going to let you introduce yourself because I will not do you justice. So for our listeners, tell them a little bit about yourself.
Sure. My name is Stefanie Loukes. I am from Fredericton, New Brunswick, and I'm the founder of Rabbittown Beverage Company. I'm also a full-time designer, a full-time parent, an athlete of sorts, more beer league athlete now these days. And I think that's about it. I think that sums it up.
So you're still doing graphic design along with everything else that you were doing?
Oh, yes. Yeah. So I do I work full time for Horizon Health Network. So I am their only designer on staff. So I design for the entire province, which is needed. And then I also do, for fun, because I have so much time on my hands, I design all the labels for Grimross Brewery as well. So I do that because it's super fun. And, the beer is a perk.
Nice. Yeah. And so with Rabbittown, I kind of want to touch on that first. So is that all non-alcoholic?
Oh, yes. And it will only be non-alcoholic.
Okay.
That was the biggest drive for me in creating this product in general was, look, I worked for 4 craft breweries across Atlantic Canada. Anything from filling up growlers to being sales and marketing to special events. I did it all. And there was always a missing piece. The rise of the craft beverage business, the craft beer business in New Brunswick skyrocketed 10 years ago, and it's still going. It's crazy. But there hasn't really been a non-alcoholic craft beverage movement yet. And I just winked there for all you listening. So, so there's a lot of room for folks who want to get into making beverages. It wouldn't matter what it is, right? So I know Coco Lemon, they make a really funky lemonade with honey. There's some kombucha folks running around. Like there's all kinds of non-alcoholic products that are hitting the market, and Sobeys is just loving every second of it.
And so where is, go ahead, Dave.
Oh, I was just gonna ask about the name. It's very catchy, and I've heard it before, and I'm trying to remember where, and it really sticks with me. And so what's with the name?
Oh man, the story is insane. So I started with a coffee truck. I bought this like easy hauler trailer and retrofitted it, and I decided to put an expensive espresso machine in it, like more expensive than my first car kind of deal. Yeah. And anyway, so I also wanted to get into coffee roasting as well. I thought that would be kind of fun. And at the time I lived right downtown in Fredericton. So there's this kind of quadrant called Rabbittown in Fredericton. So it goes from Donald Street down to Charlotte, York to Smythe. So that kind of quadrant is called Rabbittown. And that's where all of the factory workers lived in the 19th century. So the Hart Boot and Shoe Factory, the Chestnut Canoe Factory, the train station was there. So there was a lot of blue collar workers who just like to have a ton of fun and also worked their butts off. Right. So, so I was living in that area at the time, and I was trying to roast these coffee beans, and look, I was using a popcorn maker and roasting these beans out of this tiny little apartment I had. And it was so smoky and stinky that I had to turn the air conditioner on like the opposite. So the air would go out, and just smoked out my entire apartment. It smelled terrible. And as I'm staring at the window, airing out my apartment, there's a sign that said Rabbittown Park. And I was like, oh man, there it is. And it's stuck.
Wow.
Yeah.
No, that's a little history in Fredericton, New Brunswick, which is people that aren't from this neck of the woods. It's in Eastern Atlantic, Canada. And it is a very historic town, and I'm not from there, but I visit and love it. But I didn't know that Rabbittown piece, so that's very cool.
Well, here's a fun fact: there's Rabbittowns all over Canada. There's one in Newfoundland. There's one in Calgary. There's one, and it must be some sort of like an old saying for like an area of town, like the industrial park or whatever. Like it's the same kind of thing, but it's typically where the blue collar workers were living, or like the what is it, like Dobie houses where they're all the same. And yeah.
Oh, neat.
And I didn't know that either until I started the company, and people were like, I have one in Calgary, and I was like, hey, that's cool.
So then coffee to the teas, how did that happen?
Oh man, okay, so the reason I went with tea is that, when you look at the craft beer market, right? So they took a beverage that is thousands of years old and they completely reinvented it. And here's a fun fact. Beer and tea are almost the exact same age. So tea has been around for the same amount of time that beer has, but nobody has really touched tea to an extent. I mean, there's certainly, the Starbucks and all those folks that really take it. But the wonderful thing about tea is that there's so many varieties of it. There's the green teas, the white teas, the black teas. Like with coffee, it's just coffee. The only variety is like decaf or light roast. And it was also extremely expensive. Like the coffee beans are really expensive. And so if I wanted to get, for example, into the cold brew business to make cold brew coffee, I did the financials and I was like, well, this is crazy, because the majority of my money would be going into the coffee itself and then the packaging. So I wanted to reduce my costs, and then discovered that you can do the same thing with tea. And it's a great base. Like it's perfect. I was a bartender for 16 years, and you understand flavors and you understand how to build them. And there's certain things that are a great base, like cranberry juice is a great base for things when you're a bartender. So the same thing would be with tea. Like it's a perfect base, and then you can launch off of that. So I was taking fresh basil, muddling it in a cocktail shaker in my little coffee truck, and taking fresh peaches and shaking it up into a cocktail shaker and pouring it out. It was awesome. It was super fun. And my favorite memories were coming up with the weirdest concoctions. Like Oh man, it was bad. There was a few times where I was like, you know what? You just keep it. I don't even want your money. It's
not even on the house. It's just on you.
Yeah, you just take it. Like, thank you for trying it. You're a brave person. High five. What else can I get you? Because it was weird. Like, I was looking at like lemon juice and coffee and like orange spritz and coffee. Like, I was just like, let's have some fun. It was like a weird science lab. My little truck.
Yeah. Well, in knowing you on a more personal level and just knowing how much of a creative person you are, like, this does not surprise me.
But the fun thing is, yeah, you're just like, okay, let's try it. And like, I have no, I'm blunt and straight up. So I'm like, if this tastes like shit, you just let me know, because I need to know that. And if you think there's some possibility, let's work with it, man. Let's have some fun. So that's really been my motto in life.
I don't know you. I mean, just getting to know you, and it's funny you bring up the creative thing, Emily, but you get that sense right away that this is someone, you know, Stefanie, you probably, it's in your DNA. You have to be creative.
Oh yeah.
And it sounds like you kind of walk to the, you know, beat of your own drum, you know, is what I'm picking up. And then you had sent a note to Emily, and it just seems like this might be you know, being that creative person, but you talked about, I can chat about finding the strength and perseverance to launch a completely insane idea. And for me, you know, with my coaching hat on and just being, you know, it just really, that made me very curious. And I wanted to hear more about this journey. And I'm wondering if, you know, and Emily and I wonder if you could jump into that and share that, because there's so many great ideas and we don't always follow through on those ideas. And, you know, what does it take to especially a completely, by your definition, insane idea?
I think being curious is the most important aspect of anybody, whether it's in business or in leadership or in coaching, is just being curious. Like, what would happen if I did this? Right. And they always say, like, I know Elizabeth Gilbert, I've been listening to her a lot, and she said, she's preached about finding your passion. But what if people don't have passions, right? Like, I don't really have passions. I love a lot of stuff. Like, I love to play music. I love to play sports, like, but I'm the jack of all trades, master of none. Right. So people constantly trying to find their passion, and you take that word, that fancy word, and then you try to like elevate it to become some like motivational speech, where the only thing Elizabeth Gilbert says is just be curious, just ask questions. And a lot of folks say that, like, why did you get into this business? And I said, well, why not? Why not try? Let's see what happens, right? It's just, okay, if I fail, then you fail, and you fail spectacularally. And then you say, well, I wonder I failed because of this, so maybe I'll try a different route, right? So it's all process, it's all elimination, and it's all having the faith in yourself and having the perseverance within yourself and the confidence to say, this could work, and it probably couldn't work, but hot damn, I'm going to try anyway, because why not?
So it's almost being very comfortable with the idea of failure.
Oh yeah.
And I think a lot of people are scared of that, right?
Yeah.
And who hasn't failed?
Oh, yeah. I have a learning disability. Like, I thought I was the dumbest person in the world growing up. Right. And but I wasn't channeling my proper skills. Right. Like, Emily and I went to a high school. There's like 800 kids in our one senior class. Like, it was a science and sports school. Like, nobody really focused on art and creativity. And there certainly was some aspects of it, but, I think there's a really wonderful parallel between entrepreneurship and creativity, as well as some business sense, which I have none. It's just like, I can sell stuff. That's what I'm good at. But anything else, I'm like, oh God, I don't know what's going on. So, but you have to be curious. And because of my background in graphic design and my background in the craft beer industry, it was a perfect combination for me to just launch right into it. Because I already understood the concept. I know how to put liquid in a can. I know what it takes within that liquid to make it shelf stable. I know what the label should look like because I've done it for 4 or 5 years before that. Mm-hmm. And I know how to sell it. And I launched this business the same way you would launch a brewery. I walked into every single place, introduced myself, said hi, left samples, called back, did the thing, boots to the ground, like, and just drove all over the province. And those are my favorite parts, because remember, this was a pandemic when I started. I started in July of 2020. So that drop-in stuff was really, really hard to do at the time. And I really, really missed it. I had spent years as a bartender talking to people almost every day in small talk stuff, right? So I really missed it. And I think a lot of other folks did too. And it was nice to be able to go back in and say, with my mask on, of course, and say like, hey, I want you to try this. Thanks very much. Bye. But you have to kind of be a little creative with that kind of stuff.
And so what do you think it is for you, Stefanie, for like taking that thought, turning it into action, which I think is kind of where so many people struggle. And with that being okay with, yeah, this could fail miserably. And like, what is it for you that lets you take that step of walking in? Like, how do you overcome that within yourself?
Oh, it's a gut feeling too, right? Like, it's all about like the power of positivity, and like the way that you speak to yourself, your inner self, is the way that you will ultimately express yourself on the outside. So I never once, ever, I would never allow myself to say, I'm going to fail, ever, because I already know it's going to succeed. And I know it in my heart, I know it in my soul. So I'm just like, all right, that's how it's going to have to be. So I trust my intuition. I trust the universe for putting this really cool idea in my head. And I'm really thankful that I have the skills and the ability to be able to do it. And, having the personality certainly helps. That 100% helps. Like, it's crazy how many aspects of a business go into it. So it's like the founder's personality, your brand messaging, your brand personality, just your initial talking, even in public, how you speak at tasting events, how you represent yourself online in any capacity. It's all encompassing, and people make this, and I hate to say it, they make these assumptions. So you have to make sure that those assumptions are going to be good. And I'm 100% transparent. You can talk to me about anything and I will tell you honestly and openly. And and that's how I prefer to live my life. So really, Rabbittown is literally an extension of myself, and it can.
Well, and that would make it hard. It's funny because our DNA becomes part of our company, right? And we become we become the brand in a sense, right? And it's sometimes that in itself, at least for me, makes the idea of failure even harder, right? Because it's like, I'm failing. You know what I mean? And yet we have to embrace that on some level, to your point.
Oh yeah.
The thing that you're saying that I really like is, it's and Robin Sharma has this quote I'll use, and it's like, what's the point of a brilliant idea if you don't have the discipline and fierce resolve to birth it into reality? Something like I might be paraphrasing, but it's beautiful.
Yeah.
Beautifully said. And that's what I'm hearing. So it's this, the universe put this idea in my mind, and I packaged it. It's my personality, but you also talk about, like, I'm going to call it the hustle, right? Getting out there and getting into, and getting in front of people, and that constant hustle.
Yeah. Yeah. It's constant. It never stops.
That's the perseverance piece you're talking about.
Yeah, absolutely. And I guess it's perseverance in a different way. Like Emily can bike to Texas and back, and with not sweating, and I can look at a bike and start sweating. So it's completely different.
What's funny? We were just talking about, I was just finished a workout before this podcast, and I was talking about, I got this fan on me because I'm trying not to sweat. You know what I mean? Because I love how you say that. That's so hilarious. The whole sweating thing. And I got someone opened the door behind.
Who's back there?
Just keep going quietly and crawling and whatever you're doing. There's a laundry room back there, and I have kids. So full disclosure.
That's all good, man.
Yeah. So back to sweating.
Yeah.
He's sweating right now.
Perseverance, I think, is different for it's individual, right? Like, my version of perseverance is completely different than yours and Emily's, right? So mine is, okay, try not to fall apart today. Do your best, sweetie. Because, there's certain things, I call them little successes. And they always say, make your bed first thing in the morning, because that's going to be your first success of the day. And so I've taught that to my children, and I teach that to a lot of folks. Like, you got to make your bed, man. Like, you have to make your bed, because that's a small little goal that you've achieved. And that's really awesome. And if that's all you can do in a day, you're great. Good job. So in every day it's completely different. So like one day, you have the to-do list, right? And you're like, oh, and it weighs you down, and you just keep putting it off. So that's me, really. I just put it off, and then I have to do it last minute. But once it's done, you're like, sweet. So you can put it off for another week, like the next list. So I'm not perfect by any stretch of the means. And I know for a fact that a lot of my colleagues are, I don't reply to emails very well. So, but I get the message, like, I got it. So like, don't worry about it. I got it. I'll take care of it.
Yeah, I hear you on the making your bed every single day. I could not walk out my front door if my bed was not made. Like it would be on my mind for the entire day.
Yeah.
What I love hearing you talk about stuff was how you mentioned of the things that you're good at, and that you are so personable, and you can go in and just own who you are, your brand, the mission of your company, and really being able to use your strengths and not being afraid of accepting them.
Oh man.
Yeah. And even hearing you talk about passion, and you say that like you're not passionate about one specific thing, that there's so many things, but it sounds as if like you're just a passionate person. And so passion is going to go into everything that you do.
That's fair. Yeah, that's fair. I have several different passions, not one big one. Yeah, I can get behind that.
Yeah.
Yeah, man.
So Dragon's Den.
Yeah. Oh, man. That was crazy. Okay. That was the craziest thing I have ever done. And I've done some crazy shit. So like, that was crazy.
So for the listeners and for Dave, you were on Dragon's Den.
Yes. I went up in May.
And for anyone that may not know what Dragon's Den is, maybe we should just give it a quick description, if you will.
Oh yeah, it's like
I can't imagine someone doesn't, but you never know, right?
Yeah, it's a group of angel investors that's sitting on very scary chairs, looking very scary, while entrepreneurs go in and pitch their products in hopes that they will get a deal with one of the dragons.
And it's on TV.
And it is on CBC. Yeah.
And you were on it.
Yeah. So I auditioned twice. I auditioned last year and made it through to the interview with the producers, but I was brand new. So I was only a year old when I auditioned, and I just didn't have the sales for them. Then I went back again, because I'm just going to keep auditioning until they get me something. And that's the same thing with anything. So with like a COA, for example, bless their hearts, I just kept calling them until they gave me money.
Perseverance.
Oh, for the love of God, somebody give that girl some money. And I was like, hey. So it was the same kind of vibe, like squeaky wheel gets the grease, I guess, as my mom says. But yeah, I auditioned and met with the producers again. And they seemed to be quite happy with the numbers, like the sales figures and everything kind of looked a bit more promising. But then they said they would let me know by the end of April. And end of April rolled around and I didn't hear anything. And I said, okay, well, I'm just going to start getting ready for next year. And then early May, I got a phone call from them and they said, can you be here next week? And sorry, we were late, COVID and all this kind of stuff. And I was like, oh, okay. Because, you always say yes to everything until you realize later that you're like, oh, shit. So I was like, yeah, no problem. So I have an employee. Her name is Cassidy. And I called Cass and I said, you're coming. So I'm going to get you a plane ticket. We'll get us booked in. And I got to write a pitch. And we have to practice every 5 minutes. And we did that for 7 days straight. We went up to Toronto. It was a Wednesday and our pitch was on a Friday. And yeah, it was terrifying. We're launching, I guess Rabbittown is partnering with Graham Ross and we're launching a line of hopped teas. So it's just hops in beer and tea, no sugar, no calories, no alcohol. And it was still very new. And so using the soda stream and hand canning these hop teas, like one by one, the night before I was to fly out of Toronto. And then I had them packed in my suitcase with like Fragile, and the labels, I printed them and I printed the wrong size. So I had to, at 11 o'clock the night before my pitch, I had to find an X-Acto knife in downtown Toronto, which is pretty much impossible. And when I asked, they thought I was crazy. And I was like, no, like it's like an X-Acto knife for crafts. So I randomly found one at like a 24-hour convenience store. And so I had to trim these. I think I brought 12 labels. I had to print, like hand cut 12 of them. Of course, I didn't have a ruler or a straight edge. So I used the shelf of the mini fridge, the glass shelf that's inside the mini fridge. Like it was bonkers. It was bonkers. But we managed to get in on that Friday morning with labels that were, you know what, you got to do the best you can with that one. I was like, it's in their hands now, so you can't do much about it. But anyway, yeah, we had to wait about 3 hours. So we went to the studio, the CBC studio on Front Street, and went up. We got our own little pod that we were waiting in. And I met all of the other people that were pitching that day, which is really cool because it was the last sets of pitches before the season was over. So everybody was vibrating. Everybody was excited. Everybody was, it was just crazy. Anyway, I met all these other cool Canadian entrepreneurs, and we all became really good friends, and we all, liked each other's Facebook stuff and Instagram stuff. And yeah, we went in at around 3:00, and I was like a ball of nerves. Like I have ADHD already. And then I was like, I have to calm down. So I was doing like handstands in the pod, like just trying to I was doing everything, breathing techniques. Anyway, I was just a ball full of energy, and they could tell right off the cuff. They were like, who is this crazy person? I went in holding my, like I just jumped on Cassidy when we were walking in because I was so excited because it's cool. Like I'm staring at Arlene. Like this is the coolest thing I've ever seen. And they were so, so, so welcoming. The feedback I got was spectacular. Like, they were very constructive and very honest about some of the things, but for the most part, it was a wonderful experience, and I can't say anything else because of an NDA, but it was awesome. Yeah. And then I went home to my hotel room and passed out at 5:00 on a Friday night.
The adrenaline high was over. The endorphin cocktail had worn off.
Is that what it is? I thought it was like, it was definitely a chemical overdose of some kind in my brain, because I was like, I couldn't even speak English. Like I was just like, blah, 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 and just went back to a hotel room and just fainted. It was crazy. And it took me months to get over it.
Wow. When does this air?
In the fall. So they'll let me know 2 weeks before, but it's season 17 and that starts in September. And they'll let me know 2 weeks before when the air date is.
And I love that it was such a positive experience.
Oh, it was awesome.
Yeah.
It was awesome.
Like that's so good to hear, because it'll be interesting to see how they piece it together, right? And does the actual show reflect what your experience was?
Yeah, because ours was about 30 minutes, and they only broadcast 7 minutes, right? So, and I got torn to shreds too. Like, don't think I got through unscathed, but I also went to design school where you get torn apart pretty much every day, right? So I learned to develop a tough skin, and I've learned that everybody's going to have their opinion, and that's okay. And you can say, thanks, man. I really appreciate that feedback. I'll take that into consideration, because there's so many business people that just, they're so stubborn, and they're so like, they will not budge even a millimeter. And I don't like that. I'll budge. I'll move whatever you need. What do you need? What do you need? I will move mountains if you need me to. So, yeah. So, I mean, a lot of the feedback was like, ooh, okay, that's cool. But for the most part, the experience was awesome. Yeah.
Well, and the fact that you like feedback is great. I mean, and that's the only way we get better. And again, it's kind of going back to, like trying to chase a crazy idea down, and asking for honest feedback and being able to receive it and filter it and decide what I want to incorporate, what you don't want to incorporate.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
That's a real talent in my opinion. So, and that can only help on your whatever entrepreneurial endeavor you're chasing.
Yeah. Oh, this isn't even like, this is just fun now. Like, this is just like, oh, all right. Like, cause you have your product and I'm going to make more. That the production side is done. Now it's the fun stuff where you can talk to people, you can go to bigger places. Like I went to Toronto, maybe next time I'll be in Vancouver or, like Calgary or somewhere in America. Like, great, let's do it. Let's have some fun. Right. Like I don't have any grand goals, like I just do one day at a time. I do have small goals for my business. Like I want to saturate Atlantic Canada and I want to stay here for a really, really long time because these are my people. These are the reason I am successful is because of Frederictonians and because of New Brunswickers. That's it. So I'm not leaving. I'm not going anywhere. My producers are going to stay here. Everything's going to stay here. We're a small province. Come on. So if I can bring a little bit of sunshine to New Brunswick, then I will.
Yeah, I love that. And it's so you like I'm kind of envious as to how well and how graciously you can just take no's and turn them into just pushing forward through it.
Oh, yeah.
And so is there you talk about design school and kind of getting all of those pushbacks of people saying no or not liking what you've created and stuff like that. What other kind of aspects of life have you been able to draw from to help you become just such a confident entrepreneur and leader and being able to just keep pushing forward?
Yeah. Well, I can be brutally honest here. Right after Dragon's Den, which was in May, I burnt out, completely and utterly burnt out. I couldn't even look at a computer. So I spoke to my colleagues at work and we all agreed that I was going to take some stress leave. And I've spent the majority of that stress leave focusing on myself, right? Because I spent so much time putting out things, giving things out, putting out my energy and not bringing it back in, that I didn't have anything left to give. And I didn't think that was healthy at all. And I wanted to put my family and my personal life first, right? You have to take care of yourself before you can take care of other people. And I wasn't doing that. So I really started to have, well, Emily, that's when I started fly fishing. I went down and saw my buddy Andrew and he got me into it. And I learned meditation and yoga and slowing down and really taking it day by day and really putting, not stressing, just don't stress. Right. Cause I was like a crazy person when I got back to Fredericton after. I was like, okay, what do I need? I was just like a friggin' ping pong ball, right? And that's not healthy. And so, yeah, I took that, I made that decision and I do not regret it at all. Everybody needs to take that time. And so I can say oh, I hustled, but it wasn't without some sort of struggle at the end, right? You just optics, man.
Yeah.
Some people, you're happy as a clam, but at the same time, I have anxiety and I have stress and I have all of these things, and that's okay to talk about because those are, I think literally everybody is capable of anxiety or has it. And my biggest push now is to listen to people and say hey man, I see you're having a hard time. You want to sit down and talk about it, because I was having a hard time and I didn't have anybody to talk to about it.
Yeah.
So, offering a helping hand when you can have the capacity to do that is also really helpful. And, you can talk about the hustle, but the hustle is what knocked me out, man. So there's got to be a fine line in there. You've got to take care of yourself and your family and your internal happiness before you can even remotely be successful.
Yeah, absolutely. And funny you brought up the fly fishing, Dave. I just recently had seen through social media that Stefanie had started fly fishing and with a mutual friend, Andrew. And so, the fact that you started during that time, I mean, that's so much a part of my story. And when I started fly fishing was when I was competitively racing and burnt out and just being able to look at things in a different perspective, being able to take that time to slow down, to kind of get out of that hustle environment and get out onto the water or whatever that place is for someone, but that we all need that. And so I'm curious as to, with that, it's like I have all of my own reasons as to why I'm so passionate about fly fishing and how I think that it has made me a better person and expanded my perspective on life, on business, on family, on friends, on everything. What have you taken from it that you have been able to apply to business, to your life, to?
Oh yeah. Okay. So when I first started going, Andrew Clark, he's just the coolest dude. And he took me out, he was my guide, and he kind of taught me the ropes. And then the second day we went out, and I just wanted to spend the entire day out there. And we did. And then afterwards he said, so what were you thinking about when you were fishing? And I said, nothing. And he said, exactly. And I was like, oh, you. So like it's the water. Like there's magic in that water, man. It's being out in nature. It's the fresh air. It's literally submerging your body in water. It just does something to your soul. It just kind of like lets it melt. And they call it fishing, not catching. Like I could care less if I caught anything. I just do it because I like the skills that I'm developing with the rod itself. And I'm a perfectionist sort of, so I want to perfect it. I just keep trying, and Andrew keeps yelling at me and you know, the usual. So look, I grew up in organized sports too, right? I played, you know, competitive fast pitch and I like that quality sometimes. Like I need that. Like I needed Andrew to say, do it again, do it again, do it again. Right. Especially because I didn't have any guidance at all. I was just like, I didn't know which way was up. So I needed him to ground me in the water and just help me. And he really did that without him even knowing it. Like he, just him being there, and perfect stranger, didn't know him from a hole in the wall, and just reached out to him. And then all of a sudden we became super, super tight. Like instantly.
You know, I'm just struck by how you both know each other from high school. You know, it sounds like, you know, life's taking you in different places and, you know, interesting places. And you both reached a point where fly fishing, of all things, is kind of part of your therapy, you know, and it's just so, like, I'm just looking back and like, that's wild. Like that, because that's not what would come to my mind. And I need to try. You know, I think we all have those things we find, but that whole idea. So that in itself is a really interesting. Just that I'm on with two people that found solace in fly fishing. The other piece is I just love how openly, I guess you both talked about, you know, running into that wall, and I think it just gives permission for other people to talk about it and hear it. And, you know, when you're not sharing it, you're sharing it in a very courageous, I think, strong way. And it's really nice to hear. And it's just so nice that we can talk about this stuff and kind of try to better understand it than pretend it never happened. And, you know, because you're right, the hustle is the hustle, and there is a cost to it, right?
Yeah. And I think now, like, especially now after the pandemic, I think talking about, you know, we got locked up, and the only way you could really express yourself is through social media, which cool, fine. But a lot of folks were like just going through, it was a scary friggin' time. Like it was terrifying. And so I think it's really, really important to talk it out, because I had actually had the best quarantine ever. Cause like, I just got to hang out with my kids. I got to meet them again for the first time. You know, that was really cool. But a lot of folks didn't get that opportunity, and, you know, talk therapy and all that stuff. You know, it all works. It all works. Like, just try it. Like, I decided to try my hand at fly fishing because why not? Right. Or I decided to learn how to meditate, which is no, I went on one of those surface float tanks, and I was like a ping pong ball, just bonking back and forth. Like, that was not my version of relaxing. Like, that was like the opposite. I was like singing songs and getting out, and, you know, like, I just didn't like it. But there's
the sense, like, one of those tanks you go in and
float the saltwater ones, or you just float.
Oh wow.
Yeah, no, It's not my jam. No.
It makes me motion sick.
Yes.
I've never been in one, but what strikes me is I'm a little claustrophobic. I think I'd be thinking all the time is like, what if no one opens the door on this thing? Like,
right.
Like, I don't know. Maybe
how is that? Yeah. So like, how is that even like relaxing, especially for somebody who, has an overactive imagination and you're just like, ugh. So yeah, but I do find like guided meditation really helpful. I've been doing acupuncture. That's been really helpful. I've been like just going deep within myself and trying to discover the things that are important and get rid of the things that aren't, right? So, and it's a lifelong journey. It always will be, but you got to start somewhere. And I think for anybody who's listening, like, anxiety is real. And I was put on medication and then I decided to take myself off of that medication. And then I went a little nuts, and then that's okay. But I'm back now, and I have more clarity, right? Like that's the thing that really bothered me with the meds I was on is I had no clarity. I was just floating through life. And that's not who I am inherently. Somebody who ignores things and just doesn't pay attention. And I wasn't paying attention.
Wow.
Yeah. Powerful stuff.
How do people learn more about you, Stefanie, and Rabbittown, and get to check out your products and just get to know you better?
Well, sure. I mean, Cassidy runs the social media stuff. We're on there, Facebook, Instagram at Rabbittown Bev. And then you can check us out. We have Sobeys is one of our biggest carriers right now. They've been really supportive of me, and I'm actually on my way to a photo shoot here after this because they're featuring me in their fall local producer thingy where I have to get my photo taken, which is exciting. But yeah, all the Sobeys stores, and then any Aura Victory has been flying through them like crazy. Downtown Fredericton, breweries everywhere. You just go on our website, rabbittownbev.com, and you can find it all there. And you can order online as well.
Okay, I was going to ask. So if you don't live in New Brunswick, you can still check out the product and get it shipped.
Absolutely. Yeah, we can ship it. We ship it all over Canada. We sent some to BC, which is so cool. We sent a ton to Ontario. And we went to Saltscapes in Nova Scotia just in the spring, and the reception from that was unbelievable. So we have a distributor in Halifax that's representing all the small independently owned stores that are helping us out. So all the little coffee shops where I got my start, they're doing it in Nova Scotia. It's really cool.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, Steph, I am so glad that you came on here, and it we always kind of do takeaways at the end of each podcast, and for myself, what I am taking away from this is just how courageous you are, and just how when we can just show up as ourselves, that's when stuff happens.
Oh yeah, man. Yes.
And like, thank you for being authentic, for being vulnerable, for being, just you. And that, because I think, if we all just show up as ourselves, then these incredible things happen. And that looks different for every single one of us. And thank goodness that it does. And I am so excited to watch your episode on the Dragon's Den, even more excited to get out on the water with you. And maybe Dave can even come out with us, and we can have him experience that as well. But
sign me up.
Yeah.
You stole my takeaways. But clearly, that's just that idea of being. I love authenticity, and as soon as you got on, I felt like I feel like I know stuff. And that's a nice feeling, right? When you see someone and this is who I am, right? And it gives everyone permission to be who they are.
Sure. Yeah. And
I really love that. It's really
thanks, Dave.
Quality and what it does is it makes me even more interested in Rabbittown, and I want to try the products. Probably because I like the product. I guarantee I will, but more because I find you so intriguing, right? So it's kind of it's that what we talked about earlier. We are our companies in many sense.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And it's like one thing we did it. We hosted a big June was Pride Month, and we hosted this really cool we featured a lot of local LGBTQ owned businesses, and we interviewed them. And then Cass and I got interviewed, and the number one thing we both said, and this is really what like encompasses our company or my company values, is just authenticity is your best quality, and no judgment, like absolutely no judgment, no assumptions and no judgment. So, I worked at Boom Nightclub, which is a local gay bar here for years, and the folks that used to walk through that door, you were just like, my God, you are beautiful, and it wouldn't matter what it was or who it was, right? Because we're all creatures of the universe, and just don't judge people. So we don't judge. Rabbittown never judges. We just high five all the time, and then be authentically us. And that is our number one core value, is authenticity. So thanks for saying that, Em. Yeah.
Yeah, and I love that no judgment, and with that, the no judgment of others and no judgment on ourselves.
Oh yeah.
Of how we can be our worst critics. And, I think of you just going in and saying like, no, like owning it, like this company is not going to fail. This is succeeding. Like if you're sitting back there judging yourself, criticizing yourself, of course it's going to fail. You're not even giving it room to flourish.
Yeah.
And it's a really great message.
Well, thanks. Cool.
Okay. So over to Genevieve to help us finish this up.
Where everybody's going to find out the information in the podcast. So the best place is our website, boilingpointpodcast.com. You can find other conversations we've had in the past. You'll find this episode, all the different information. We share them through our social media accounts, so through LinkedIn, Facebook, and Twitter. They're posted on all of your favorite podcasting platforms, and we also post the lovely video recording so you can see our guests and our hosts on YouTube and Facebook.
Did you know you were being recorded, Steph? Video? Good thing you're ready for your photo shoot.
Okay, we're good. My hair it could be higher, but that's okay.
So could mine, Stephanie. Nice meeting you. I look forward to our fly fishing experience.
Yes, man. Yeah, let's do it.
Okay.
Thanks so much, Steph.
No worries. Thank you, guys.
Bye.
Take care.
Thanks for listening to the Boiling Point Podcast. Remember to subscribe and rate our podcast on your favorite listening platform. To find out more, head to our website at boilingpointpodcast.com. You can connect with us on LinkedIn, Facebook, and Twitter. To find out more about Dave Vale's work, head over to visioncoachinginc.com. Thanks for listening, and make sure to check out our next conversation.